You can't experience life without suffering. That's impossible. And you can't create things and enjoy things without suffering, because suffering gives a measure of things.
Something else I found it intriguing is how nice and polite he is when he's talking to most people. And then the sentence is interrupted by his thoughts, and he's like almost like a completely different person.
Yeah,
And
it's very difficult to know the other person. It's extremely difficult to know yourself. It requires total and constant questioning, observation. It's very tiring. I mean, if you want to learn thyself, it's like the most important thing you can do in your life, but it's like the most difficult and dangerous. Being a free man is very tiring. You have to be responsible for your actions. You have to question everything. That's why life is hard and freedom is hard. That's why many people don't like freedom.
it's an interesting timing because also the Christopher Nolan's movie The Odyssey has recently returned the Odyssey to popular culture. And while reading your novel, I kept thinking of Alexander as a strange mix of an inverted Odysseus and a modern Oedipus. Alexander returns to Athens. The first time we meet him, he's knocking on the door of an apartment that seems to be his former home, and he finds another couple living there. Can you take me back to that moment when you first had that image of Alexander in front of the door? Like, what did his return mean to you personally?
First of all, it's very nice that it's very interesting that you are almost the same age with Alexandros. I was a bit younger than that when I wrote the book, but I wanted to write it this way so that it would represent a young man's mindset, because I knew that 10 years later I would be different. So I wanted to capture that energy, that feeling of a raging young man. So it's very, I think it's very nice when a young person tells me that so many things in the character, because that's what I wanted to convey. Now, I wanted the start of the book to be very, very immediate, very, very raw. I mean, so that the reader can understand what they are going to read through the book. So I wanted to get straight into the character's mindset and bring him where is the main landscape, the main space of his adventure. So that house was the beginning of his return to Athens after a year of self-exile. But it was the first part of his disillusionment, because he saw that some other people are living there right now. And it's the first place he wanted to see when he came back to Athens. I mean, he comes back because he wants to see some places and some people before committing suicide, right? So that was the very first thing he wanted to see again, the place where he thought, in Athens, where he thought he had some very painful but very shaping experiences. So he's a guy that gives much importance to symbols and what the places mean for him. So he wanted to see this house, and he was the very first act of getting back to the beloved ones. So because later he will try and see his ex-girlfriend, his sister, and so on. And also about the Odyssey you mentioned, it's there was the book has been published in France, and there was a very good review from Mediapart, the very big and important news hub, and they said that thing that it's like a dark parody of Odysseus' return to Ithaca. So I
Yes.
like that you mentioned that too, because it's almost on the same page, yeah. Because
Yeah.
we could see this protagonist something like that, a wannabe Odysseus, because he has no something. He has not even a place to return. Actually, I mean, he doesn't have an Ithaca to return. He's just wandering around through the waves. So maybe he's in an even worse place than Odysseus.
Exactly. So something that I found really interesting is the fact that the story unfolds mostly through his thoughts and through dialogue. So there isn't exactly like descriptions of his actions, like third person narrative and all that stuff. And when Alexander meets, when he returns to Athens and he meets some of his old friends and he meets his ex-girlfriend, I think, they all seem to recognize like the person he used to be. But since we as readers have access to his thoughts, we know that he has become someone very different. It actually made me wonder like how much of our identity depends on other people remembering who we used to be.
That's a very interesting and deep question that I care about when I write and when I live, actually, because we want to pretend as people that our identity is something that it belongs 100% to us. But I think that's not true. I mean, the identity itself is something that we fabricate, more or less. There's not no such thing as identity. That's my belief. I believe this for many years now. It's something that changes all the time, that we want to pretend that it's always there so that we can feel we are not collapsing as a as a self or as a human being. So the identity is not something solid. It's something fluid. I mean, I remember there are some lines in the book where I mentioned this very clearly, but we change every passing second, actually, and there are some steady points in the long run, but it's something like uh, an average. I mean, from ups and downs. So we change all the time, and we get an average out of this, and we call it identity. So this this identity, this illusion, this fabrication is, of course, affected by what other people think about us, what other people project on us, and what we ourselves decide to accept as partially true. I mean, we can hear, we can have some beliefs of people about us, and some of them may affect us, some of them may not. So it's a constant battle between our inner thoughts and other people's thoughts about us that ultimately create something that we call identity. In the book, I wanted to give access to the inner world of Alexandros. That's why everything gets through it. I mean, even the actions of the other people in the book appear through Alexandros' lens, because the purest we can have from what is happening. I mean, to a man's life. If we somehow could get into his head and see what he's seeing and what he's feeling. Uh, of course, literature and art can only do as much. That it doesn't have much. We cannot represent it through art like 100%. We can only try to imitate how it feels in a human's psyche. But that's what I wanted to try to give it, a glimpse of how a person's mind and brain and fantasy shapes his perception of reality. And all the other things, his beloved ones, his talking with other people, his experiences, what he's doing right now are just, small additions to that. The core is the human brain and whatever gets in and out of it.
Something else I found it intriguing is like how nice and polite he is when he's talking to most people. And then the sentence is interrupted by his thoughts, and he's like almost like a completely different person.
Yeah.
And it made me wonder, like, how much can we ever truly know other people, and how much can others really know us?
That's a good point, because he's like very calculating when talking to others, but at the same time he's like boiling underneath. So it's a dark comic note, I think, that when you compare what he's saying and what he's thinking. But I think that's very common. Yeah, I mean, we don't like to accept it, but the thoughts, the inner thoughts of the human brain and of people are very different uh, uh, compared to their actions, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, that's why we don't, judge and condemn people. We don't we don't send people to jail for their thoughts. It's what you do and what you say that matters. So the thought may be there. That's something that I struggle to understand as a human being. That the thought may be there, but it doesn't mean that the existence of the thought, defines you. I mean, you may have thought something terrible, but it's not. It doesn't mean that you accepted this, or that you embraced it, or that you are that very the specific thought. So I wanted, I like this division between the inner world and the outer world, because it's very important to accept it. Because many times we think we have some very bad thoughts, and we are overwhelmed by this and think that we are bad people, or that we are unworthy. But we have to distinct this situation. It's very difficult to know the other person. It's extremely difficult to know yourself. It requires total and constant questioning, observation. It's very tiring. I mean, if you want to learn thyself, γνώθησε αυτόν, as the ancient Greeks said, you have to. It's like the most important thing you can do in your life, but it's like the most difficult and dangerous, because you may find terrifying things. You have to be very courageous about that. But it's essential if you want to live an authentic life. An authentic life. I mean, a life that aligns with what you really want. That's what authenticity is. But the other person, especially nowadays, it's because it's hard, and the hard thing nowadays is something that we avoid very often. People, we have to give time to people and to ourselves, of course. And time right now is abundant, but we throw it away. I mean, you have to stay with a person and with yourself for some time if you want to really know them or you. And that's not happening very easily right now.
As you mentioned, and that's it, people will find out reading the book. Alexander is in a very deep existential crisis, and he's a young man who's suffering a lot internally. And we're used to thinking of suffering and pain as things we we learn from. But in his case, it doesn't seem completely like that pain and that suffering turns into a lesson. And I'd like to ask you, like, does suffering really make us stronger, or do we say that because accepting that some pain simply destroys things might be too frightening for us?
That's something that concerns me in this book, in this novel I'm finishing right now. I mean, pain, suffering is one of my main themes, actually, because it's something. It's a universal experience. I mean, suffering. It's one of the most universal experience we have as human beings. Okay, and it's very interesting too as a theme. So I think it's necessary. I mean, in this particular universe we are living in. I mean, theologically, suffering is necessary if you want to come close to God and to the upper to the utmost truth. But if there was a God that was omnipotent and ultra powerful, he could have created a universe where this wasn't necessary. I mean, where you could live and be happy without suffering. He, this could be possible. Now, in this particular universe, this godless universe we are living right now, you can't experience life without suffering. That's impossible. And you can create things and enjoy things without suffering, because suffering gives a measure of things. I mean, why we get happy? Because sometimes we suffer. I mean, if you haven't suffered, you don't know what happiness is, or not even happiness, joy, a good feeling. Happiness is a very strange word. I don't really like it, but we use it sometimes more than needed to understand each other. I mean, suffering is necessary, yeah. But the important thing is why you suffer. If it's a suffering that you choose, that's actually the most important thing. Is this a suffering you chose, and that has to do with your plan, with your strategy, with what you want in life, or is it suffering that doesn't have anything to do with your actions or with your choices? So not all sufferings, not all pains are created equal, and you can have some this unpleasant feelings that you can endure and bury them with you, because they are good for you in the long run. But you can have a minor bad feeling that gets you crazy because it has nothing to do with who you are and what you want to achieve in life. So yeah, we have to embrace suffering, of course, but we have to make it like work for us, because it can.
You mentioned that you don't actually like the word happiness, and I'm curious now why.
Because happiness is like a word that means something that has ended. As a situation, it gives signal for something that is permanent, and nothing is permanent. Okay, so happiness is like creates an image of a person that is like in a machine and just feels good all the time. This is not a realistic state of mind, and it's not useful either. I mean, if you are happy with how you are right now, you have no reason to do something else. It's a situation. I mean, that doesn't have realistic value. So there are other words, I mean, that are more precise in my view. In Greek, there was an ancient word of Aristotle, evdaimonia, which meant that you felt that you are living with purpose. So some people say that living with a purpose is more important than living with being happy. And this is not, these two contradict. It's not the same. I mean, you can have a purpose in life, but not feel happy about that all the time. No, you are a bit suffering sometimes, but
Yes.
you feel that you have a purpose, so that suffering is reasonable. So happiness is a bit problematic. There is a chase of happiness all the time. Yeah, the chase of happiness maybe is more accurate. No, the pursuit of happiness. I mean, it's something that you chase all the time. You get it for a while, it gets away, and you get it. You go after it for a second time, and the third time.
Almost like
But
a drug, or like.
yeah, it is like a drug. Yeah, yeah. And nowadays, especially through social media, and there have been books about it, like the dictatorship of happiness, that you have to feel happy about all the time. You have to feel good all the time. Feeling bad is like a shame or like a crime or anything. Of course, that's a lie. Nobody does that. Nobody feels good all the time. But many people, especially in social media, like to pretend that they're happy all the time, because
Yes.
it's a whole industry. And actually, there has been a TV show. I haven't watched it yet, but I want to, because I guess you have watched Breaking Bad, Better Call
Yeah.
Saul and stuff,
Yes.
probably. Yeah, the creator has done another TV show that has a theme like that, about it's a dystopic environment, a dystopic planet right now, that where people, there's a virus or something that has done people feel happy all the time, and there's a person that doesn't, who is treated like a sick woman. I like to a pluribus. Yeah, pluribus. That's uh,
Yes.
write it
Pure.
down. You could watch. I want to watch. I haven't watched it yet, but I want. It's very interesting. And Vince Gilligan is
It's amazing.
is
Yeah.
a very, yeah, creative guy. Yeah. So that's something that happens. But happiness, yeah, it's like a very vague blanket that we use to communicate with each other, but it's good for only very uh, schematic patterns, very simplistic patterns. If we want to see what we want to do in order to feel good in our lives, and to live, the purpose of life is to live it, not to feel happy. I mean, the most
Yeah.
important thing you can do with life is to live it. But if you want to live it, you can't be happy all the time. You have to get stressed. You have to suffer. You have to feel disappointed. That's all. That's all in the package. So yeah, happiness is a great word. It's a very beautiful word, but it's like a bit dangerous sometimes. Yeah, we have to be very careful with happiness.
Yeah.
But as everything, we have to be vigilant. I mean, spiritually, we have to see what's side under the words. What's the true meaning? Um that's why being a free man is very tiring. I mean, you have to be responsible for your actions. You have to question everything. That's why life is hard, and freedom is hard. Okay, that's why many people don't like freedom.
Yeah.
When I was a child, I was like, why some people don't like living in free societies, or don't like to live free. I didn't get it. I mean, now I really do, because sometimes it's amazing when you give away all your freedom. Even I can do it sometimes. I mean, you want to give away your freedom sometimes because it relieves you so much stress. That's the price of being at least partially free. I mean, it's another word. Words are models. They're not 100% precise meaning. I mean, there is no ultimate freedom. There's no totally pure freedom. Living itself, living just being on the planet means that you're not totally free. Okay.
Yes.
Of course, there are boundaries. There are boundaries. There are rules of existence. There are natural laws, of course. Okay, so there are no 100% pure words.
Something else I noticed in the novel is there's a really strong emphasis on the body. Like it's almost like a counterweight to the fact that most of what we experience is happening inside Alexander's mind. We're constantly inside his thoughts, but at the same time, we keep returning to hunger, overeating, nausea, discomfort. And it makes you wonder, like, how much of our inner life is actually carried by the body.
The body is where everything happens. And everything is important because we have a body, because we can feel, and the body will react. So it's a very frequent theme in my writings, even in what I'm finishing right now. Because we sometimes, we talk all the time, we discuss, we analyze things, and we think that the body is out of it, is absent. But no, the body is still all the time there. The brain is the body. I mean, we have reached a conclusion right now. It's not a debate that mind, the mind and the body are not separate things. The mind is body, and the body is mind. So we are one whole thing. There's not a soul, okay, inside us. So the mind, the self that's inside us is body. So everything we do, we do it because we have a body, because this thing with cells, muscles, bones, and everything exists. We wouldn't, if everything, if we had a brain and we thought everything without the body. I mean, the body that the conventional body we have now, we
Yes.
wouldn't be human beings. We would be something else, okay? Because there would be no need to find a partner, for example. Well, what to do a partner without a body? I mean, if you can't touch him or her, if you can't make love, you can't go outside and enjoy an evening. Why would you want a partner? If you were just living in a jar with
Yes.
Consciousness, only with consciousness. So everything everything, all the happiness, all the joy, all the pain gets filtered through the body, and reflects on the body, gets reflected on the body. I mean, sickness. If you feel nice, you will the body follows. Uh, so it's like where everything ends, the body for me, and that's why it's so important for in my works. And everything that we say, vaguely, theoretically, philosophically, becomes tangible on the body. So the body is like is giving shape to all the things we discuss and we say to each other. It's like writing, or like language. The
Yes.
language gives shape to our thoughts. So the body, in a way, gives shape to our life and to our feelings and to everything that we care about. So it's very important for me. That's why I like to give uh, in my writing. I care about food. I care about sex. I care about even abuse, because the human body can be horrendous. Okay, many times can
Yes.
be is a source of joy, but a source of horrific things that happen. And this contradiction is beautiful, because it's real. It's real. It's something that reflects your existence. It's not something that you create to provoke. It's what makes us human. So I like giving some raw aspects of that in my writing.
You mentioned food, and it's quite obvious in the novel how important food is to Alexander. And it's one of the things that actually felt a little bit personal. And I'd like to ask you, like, is food like a form of comfort for him or another form of self-punishment? Because he seems to have this strange relationship with it.
Yeah, the food is very, it's very important in this book. It's a source of neurosis. It's something that gives him pleasure, but at the same time feels like a punishment, and it has a connection with his class origin and the way he grew up. Some reviews have mentioned that, and I was very very glad to see that, because it's the food. It is something that Alexandros didn't have plenty growing up, so it became like an obsession, and it has to do with his origins as an immigrant of a poor family. That's so you see, it's very tangible. It's very grounded.
Yes.
The reason of this obsession. So it's something that in a materialistic society becomes obsession. So after obsession is never a good thing, and it generates neurosis, it generates stress, and all that stuff. So it became like that for Alexandros, and it's something that is like a bless and a curse for him. That's something that he really loves and enjoys, but at the same time has uh, become like a sickness for the body after so many years. And it's like a very striking division about the people that have some needs, some very basic needs in our today society, and some people that are living in abundance. So I want it's actually something that gives a picture of our super consuming society, and that's why I put ads also in the book. I mean, he's thinking about the food all the time, and ads everywhere around him. So it's something that has also worked as a brainwashing, because food is all around as a
Yes.
commercially. So it's not just a way to get energy to live. It's an obsession overall in our society. So it's not an
Yes.
obsession just of Alexandros. It's an obsession of the whole society through commercial brainwashing, and that's something that has affected his way of thinking. And I wanted to put also this aspect.
Alexander remembers Greece. Like, just to say before that, he was born in Albania. So Alexander remembers Greece as a kind of promised land before his family moved there. Then he arrives and discovers that the people he expected to welcome him don't actually see him as one of them. There's that, especially that revealing moment when he has written an essay and his teacher tells him she praises him, and she says, you can hardly tell you weren't born in Greece. And it's intended as a compliment, but it reminds Alexander that he's still kind of outside the Greek society. And you were also born in Albania and you moved to Greece as a child. And so I'd like to ask you personally, but also about Alexander in the novel, like, how important was the discovery that even speaking the language well and feeling connected to a place might still not be enough to belong there.
It was very important because I was a child, small child there back then, and everything felt huge, and everything that you can't understand or explain becomes an enigma or a mess, a whirlpool that devours you. So things like that contributed to a very complex confusion about who you are, what you should feel about this country or that country, how would you define yourself. There's a funny thing about that scene you mentioned. A teacher of mine read the book when it was published, and she messaged me like very anxious and sad, telling that, "Oh my God, I hope I wasn't that teacher that told you that thing back then." And I was like, "No, no, don't worry. You were great, but anyway, I didn't. There wasn't something exactly like that. I mean, there wasn't a teacher that told me that thing." That's another thing we have to have in mind. Of course, there are very things that have happened, many things that have happened, really, in the book, and there are elements of autobiography, but most of them are like fictionalized stories that have a speck of truth inside. Okay.
Yes.
But I don't want to stay there because I want to make it more interesting, even for myself, not only for the reader. Because if I was writing only things that have happened, it would be like very boring for me too. I want to go things a bit further and see before me things that haven't happened, to mix them with reality, with fiction, with the imagination, with that's what is so entertaining about writing. You can create things that didn't happen, So that's what I want to do. But anyway, yes, this was one of the. This is something that happened because the general context. Because we came into Greece already speaking Greek, and we thought that we we were, because we were Greek speaking back in Albania. I mean, my parents knew Albanian, but the natural language was Greek. My father had studied in Tirana, so he was a bit better in Albanian. He was a bit more into Albanian politics and society. My mother, who was, more like a mother, because she started giving birth to babies from a small age. She was like more in the context of the village of Kimara, and she didn't. She knew Albania, but not that much to communicate on a high level. And our natural language we spoke in at home was Greek. But so we had higher expectations when we came here. That's true. It wasn't totally black and white. That's very important to keep in mind, because there were many people that welcomed us indeed like that. I mean, like we were relatives from the past. We had that too. It's mixed with many other reactions, and that contributes even more to the confusion I mentioned before. So it's a huge perplexion. It's a perplexity of things that you have to evaluate, to think what is true, what I want. That was the worst part from my experience. I mean, a total confusion about everything. That's what I had to work for decades in my life. I mean, not only in some things, I was better than people from northern Albania that came into Greece. because our paper was easy. Our paperwork was
Yes.
easier. We didn't have to
Yes.
pay for a residency, for example. But in other walls, in some other things, I was in a worse situation because I wasn't clear. Everything was confusing. Everything. I didn't have that certainty for anything. So that was the worst part. Uh, but that's something that even Alexandros has to deal with uh, in the novel, and that's why I chose this specific format of the novel, and even the title Balta. Everything was a mess, like a thick mud flowing all around. So that's the Balta more. That's the mud. It was a mix of things that doesn't have identity. That's what Balta actually is. It's not the dirty thing. It's
Yes.
not that it's dirty. It's that it's everything mixed and doesn't have a shape or a color or a thing. That was the point of the title and of the specific style of the book.
Meanwhile, his Alexander's memories of his place of origin appear appear beautiful, but just when the scene begins to feel nostalgic, Alexander usually ruins it by thinking of something crude or funny or painful. And I'm curious, like, were you intentionally trying to stop that his place of origin or his birthplace from becoming a kind of idealized lost home?
Yeah, he likes doing that anyway. I mean, he likes spoiling things. When something gets nice, give it a kick and spoil it. He enjoys destroying things or memories or stuff like that. And also he doesn't want to indulge in nostalgia. Moreover, he knows that that's the origin. It's the origin of his whole adventure. So he has very mixed feelings about it because he may have some good memories, but he knows that that's where everything started. That also there are many thoughts about if it would be better if they hadn't lived the place. That's another very important, very interesting discussion that can be made, maybe even of another book, because he has thoughts about it. I mean, there are in the book he thinks maybe their parents did a mistake, that his parents did a mistake that they left Albania and came to Greece. That's another point of confusion and second thoughts and doubt. So he does that. Yeah, he doesn't want to pictures as something that's very beautiful and is waiting for him because he also knows that it's lost. It's not as he remembers it. He knows that even that is a delusion and an illusion. So he doesn't want to picture it with beautiful colors that romanticize it.
And some of those memories seem to be very specific. For instance, there's a scene about children using Berisha's name as an insult without really knowing who he was. And the Albanian in me and the kind of gossip loving Balkan person in me wants to ask, like, has that actually happened? Like, really? And do you remember absorbing that atmosphere yourself as a child?
Yeah, that was true. Yeah, because Berisha, that back then was the most famous Albanian. So that's great. That's very important to know, my friend. People in Greece, and I'm sure, or not in Greece, in Europe, overall, did know nothing about Albania, and they're still learning the basics. I mean, they didn't even know that Albania has sea even. I mean, when Albania started to become a touristic destination, here people in Greece were very amazed by that. They didn't know that Albania has beautiful beaches and beautiful mountains. Okay, but not even in Europe. I mean, that's why it's become so popular, actually, because it's something very surprising. It's a very new thing, Albania, still, even after so many years. Imagine back then, people knew nothing about Albania here in Greece. So Berisha was like the most well-known person from there. Not politician. Keep in mind,
Yes.
not politician. The most famous Albanian.
Yes.
So that was the first thing that they could tell you to point their finger on you as an Albanian. And that's I don't remember how I took that. I mean, I didn't feel any connection with Berisha, actually. I mean, we especially from Himara and southern Albania have very bad opinion about him.
Yeah.
He wasn't very good with us. So it was, very subversive. It's one of these things I told you about. It was like a guy we hated anyway, and the people that were here in Greece, in Laconia, some people, in kids especially, I'm not sure we cleared this. Kids
Yes.
were saying
Kids.
that. Yeah, kids. I mean, small kids, but they knew Berisha, and they wanted to say that you are Berisha, so you are Albanian. But at the same time, it's like I told you we hated the guy. We thought he was very bad with us, and anyway, so it was another layer of confusion and making me think what's happening. Why? I mean, why they telling me? It wasn't like an insult,
Yes.
It was this specific. It was a confusion, and even more confusion, and especially from children. But okay, it's very. There were some elderly people that said things like that, but they were worse in my view, because the children, were a bit playful. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know things. But if there was an elderly man or woman who said things like that, it hurt more. I think.
Yes.
Now, Berisha, if you want to go there, in I don't know if you to go political,
Sure.
but I don't know. Now in Greece, people think that he's dead. Actually, they think they don't know if he's dead or not. The Berisha. So they know, of course, Rama. He's very divisive here, but he's very well known in Greece. Of course, he has this temperament that people love here in Greece, but he is divisive in some areas. But anyway, it's a huge. But politics in the Balkans is a huge topic, and it's not being conducted in a very useful way, I think, unfortunately.
Yes, that's true. Has your own relationship with Himara, your birthplace, changed since you wrote the novel?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, many years have passed since then. So I've grown up. I've learned things. I'm quite different now. Himara has changed a lot. Albania has changed a lot. Actually, I think maybe I'll go. I'll be in Himara next week for some things I want to do. Now it's more like everything that's concerning me and challenging me in Himara has to do with more practical things. I've not overwhelmed now by identity things, by things that the things in Balta don't affect me right now, and the books, of course, help for that, because every time I finish a book, it's like everything that I put in the book is like solved in a way, because I have written it down and I can watch it and observe it. So I'm not like, I don't have issues like that anymore. my identity and my way of thinking is much clearer. Uh, I don't, or even if not clear, I don't care that much. I mean, I've learned that there are more important things in life than that, and these things, these ways of thinking, these problems are a bit like childhood illnesses. You have to get through them, of course, but they're not really important when you unravel the mess, of course. Okay, so now in Himara, everything that I care about in Himara has to do with my house there. My land issues, as everyone. We have this kind of problem right now, which is very tiring and very exhausting and very. Uh, it's a mess, and that's why I want to get things done there, because it's keeping us back. I mean, the whole city and the people, because we have a very beautiful place there, but we can't fully take advantage of it. No, that's it. I go there once in a while, do some business. I mean, business, going to Basquiat and get the paper. That's the business.
Yes.
But even
Yes.
that, it's like a nightmare
And
for us in Kimara.
I know
To go
it's
to Basquiat and get a paper. Anything else. But it's much better now. I mean, no question about it. I mean, when I was a child and I wanted to go with my father from Himara to Vlora, oh my God, it was like we were going to Australia. The trip was long, so tiring, because we have to get on the mountain, Logara.
yes.
It was so difficult, and now it's much easier. I mean, the tunnel is working. In 10 years, it will be even better, because hopefully there will be a good road along the beach, and
Yes.
we will be in Flora like in 45 minutes. That sounds like a dream to me.
Yes.
Uh, but yeah, the paperwork is very, very messy. Still very messy, and that's our main problem, not
Yes.
anything else. If we
Yes.
get the papers and enjoy our home and everything is okay. We don't care about if some people call us there Greeks and here Albanians and anything. Not at all. That's just for laughing right now.
I have a couple more questions about the book. Athens, for Alexander, seems to be both like a shelter and a prison. It gives him anonymity, but it also intensifies his isolation. And I know the book came out in 2014 during the Greek debt crisis. And I'm curious, like, how much of that atmosphere found its way into the novel? And can the novel be also read as a response to that crisis?
Yeah, of course, unavoidable, because the interesting part is that I was in a permanent crisis mode all the time. But of course, as a human being, as a writer, everything that was in my mind was like I was already feeling things that people in Greece felt only during the crisis. That's amazing for me, because it's like the whole country got inside my mood. So yeah, I was uh, I was living perpetually this kind of crisis before the financial crisis, the big crisis. We call it crisis in Greek, just crisis, because
Yes.
it was like without precedent. The country lost one quarter of its economic power without a war. I mean, even during a war, this wouldn't have happened. Of course, we didn't have people died for other ways, but for other reasons. But the loss, the financial loss Greece had was unimaginable, and we still pay for that. So I was in this mindset back then, and of course it's something that reflected what the country experienced back then, because everything that I was feeling intensified this way. And it was this decade, yeah, because I had just, I had gotten out of the university. I studied as an engineer in technical school, topography engineer, engineering, some.
Yes.
It was a very good school before the crisis, but after the crisis, it was there was no work for anyone. So this, of course, affected me, because before the crisis, if the situation was as it was before the crisis, I would have easily found a good job and started making money and living life, you know.
Yes.
But this way, my mental fog just kept on for a decade more. So it was very, yeah, it's like it was like a dark joke on me this way, because the whole country, I was writing stuff like that before, and it was like everything that I was writing was before the crisis, but it wasn't. I was already like that. But it was something that matured the Greek society, because there were many things that they didn't care about. They were very careless with money. That's true. And they didn't think, now, what they do in Germany. I don't know how Albanians are, of course, because there are many similarities between Albanians and Greeks.
Yes.
And Greeks. But when people in Germany some years ago bought a slice of watermelon from the supermarket, people in Greece mocked them, because where they are large financially. They are, how you say, they're generous with the money. And
Yes.
why would they get just a slice of watermelon and not a whole watermelon, even if they throw half of it the next day because they wanted it? Oh, so it was necessary for the country to get a bit more mature, and now it's better for me too, because now they have some experiences that are common with mine, and I that's in a in an essence, that's why I feel much better now in Greece, because they can communicate about what it is to go to the supermarket and just what's the prices under the products. They didn't do that. You know what I mean? Something that simple. But I was born like that. I mean, I was doing that since when I was a baby. And in the 90s, when I grew up here, that was the best decade of Greece ever. I mean, you would make money no matter what your job was. Everyone had money because the jobs were really paying really good. The government spent gave money to everyone, so everybody had much money. They didn't know what to do with it. That's why they were playing in the stock market and they lost. They were building houses everywhere, cottages, everything, buzuka, So yeah, when they had the best decade, it's something that they feel really nostalgic about here in Greece, the 90s and the 80s, but especially the 90s. Back then, this was the worst decade of mine and my family and all these people, because we had came from Albania and we had to struggle to get a new start. So right now we are balancing a bit because they can identify a bit with that experience. So Greek society is a bit more mature right now, I think.
Do you think the country has really moved beyond that?
So yes, you think if they have changed the way they behave financially, you mean?
Psychologically, like the society has moved beyond the crisis, or is it still like in that confusion?
No, not entirely, because we are still living the consequences. I mean, now the economy is going is being good macroeconomically, but microeconomy is not following yet. So the people are very in a very uh, austere position. The wages are really low, are really low. So everything feels so expensive, and everything, all that is because of the crisis. Because we lost a decade, and Albania is catching up. I'm not sure about the numbers right now, but it's crazy that I remember the average wage in Albania was like, I didn't even. It was like a joke. Like, I don't know,
Yes,
it's tiny. Now it has doubled or even more than that. I mean, Albania is catching up in terms
yes,
of wages, because when even Bulgaria has surpassed Greece in some aspects, because for a decade, it's not only that you are losing money, that you are decreasing, but the other countries are still progressing. So it's double the loss, and so we are feeling still these consequences. It's not, we are still bearing the consequences of the crisis in our lives. So yeah, it's not over yet. Actually, it will be when we close the gap we lost and that decade, and still think that we are living much a life closer to what we want. But it's very difficult right now, because of the whole world is facing problems, and I'm not sure how this is going to happen. Maybe the next generation has to come who won't have that memory of living much better, because as you told, these guys that can remember how they were in the 90s, it's not easy to live now for them,
yeah.
because they remember that they had so much more money. But the new generations may be more realistic about it, and live a more balanced life.
By the end of the novel, I wasn't sure whether Alexander was trying to return home or whether he was discovering that the home he remembered no longer existed. And I'd like to ask you, like, is it possible for us to create a new sense of home after losing the original one?
I think you can always create a new home. Maybe there isn't one home. That's something that may be harmful as a thought, as a belief. And the home is something that you can create a home that you have all the time with you. I mean, I'm past that belief right now. I have many homes, and I can feel very good on many places right now. I mean, I don't have to go to. I feel very good. I feel like home here in Laconia. I feel at home when I'm in Himara, but Upper Himara, the original Himara, not the the city by the sea, which is like a mess right now. Because Himara for me is Himara Fshat. This is
Yes.
our Himara. I feel like home when I'm in Paris for vacation or for a book presentation, because everything in Paris I have seen in movies, I have read it in novels. I can identify myself. So I'm past that belief that I have to have one place to call home. And you can always recreate your life yourself. That's the amazing aspect of being a human. It's a superpower we humans have. We can recreate our home, our identity, ourselves every time. And of course, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. It's very difficult. It needs psychological power, determination. It's very easy. It's very hard, and uh, it depends on what you want. If you want to keep going through life, so that's what Alexander tries to do. My last novel in Greece is like it was published 7 years after Balta. It's like a sequel to Balta, sequel and prequel at the same time.
Yeah.
It's being translated right now by Eliana, the same translator who did Balta. I think it will be published soon in Albania. So it will be very interesting to see the same issues in a different style, because it's more like it's bigger. It's a bigger novel. It has some narration from other people, from his mother, from his granddad. It's like a bigger concept.
Yeah.
So you will see there, hopefully, these issues. That's what an Alexandros is about. It's like a never-ending quest, an Odyssey, I would say.
Yes.
I mean, and the Odyssey. The great part about the Odyssey is that not even the Odyssey ends. I mean, there are other epics that have been lost, unfortunately, with Odysseus, that have other adventures of the hero. It's not like he returned to Ithaca and they lived happily ever after. No, in fact, there is a lost epic where a son of his and Circe kills him. It never ends. It never ends. I mean, I don't know who can say that, okay, I did this and now I can relax. I mean, this is a very dangerous concept, that you will get into a state of mind that you will say, I'm finished, I can relax. No, this is death. This is death. You can tell this only just before you die. So it's a never-ending process that you have to be able to afford mentally and in other ways. And that's because, when I finish this book I'm writing right now, I have another book that I want to start, a novel, again with Alexandros, in a middle-age stage of life. I want to see and to explore how he will be with a new mindset, but with some, permanent issues and challenges. So yeah, that's something that fascinates me. An Ithaca that never comes, that a never-ending struggle.
Thank you. It was really a pleasure. I'm curious about your book that's coming out in Albanian, and I'm definitely curious to learn more about Alexander's grandfather. It gives some very interesting episodes in Balta, but I want to learn more about him.
Yeah. There is a whole, chapter. I mean, it's like 3 books in this one, and the first one is about the grandfather, his situation, because it's really interesting. Yeah, the other one is with the mother, first voice, first
person.
First person. Yeah, and the last one is Alexandros again. So yeah, it's much broader and more like it gives light to some other out of the person. It's not entirely focused on the mindset of Alexandros. So it's a bit more political and more historical. It has more aspects like that. And since you like the book, and I get that you are interested about its universe. I really can't wait for you to read when it's out. Of course, I will. I will announce it. It's not ready yet, but Elana is my translator to Albania, and she's a friend also. So we are getting ready.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was really a pleasure.
Ky podcast mbështetet nga Abi Bank.